All right, so we're going to be looking at something that has to do with something I also talked about yesterday. So Tucker Carlson had done a segment on Fox News on his show, disavowing the two places that Amazon went to in New York, and I believe it was D.C. pretty much is where they went. And they went there because they were, first of all, they went to D.C. not because of money, but they went there because it gives them geographical edges in Washington, because the financial incentives were not as large there as it were in other areas. But basically, in New York City, they're giving them, I believe it's like $2 billion in tax breaks. So you're basically looking at corporate welfare going on right here, which is the worst form of welfare because it is the least reasonable and least rational welfare possible. And Tucker Carlson covered this. Now, Kyle Kulinski did a segment on this, on what is going on. Now he's gonna he's gonna throw a jab at Dave Rubin, because Dave Rubin, as always, manages to be very dumb on pretty much every issue that comes up. That's just sort of the Dave Rubin way of going about things, is being a total imbecile. About really any issue that comes up, he's always on the wrong side because he's a dummy. But he's going to go after that. And he's also going to mention Tucker Carlson about how he agreed. And also he's going to mention Ben Shapiro, who also agreed. But there's a big catch that I wish Kyle Kulinski had noted in this segment. And I'm going to be filling you guys in on what that catch is. But first, check out what Kyle said.
I mean, it's just hilariously stupid to think like, oh yeah, just bend over backwards to Bezos because jobs. Help provide jobs, even though that the amount of money they're giving him, I forget the exact number, but it works out to, what, over $40,000 per job or something like that? So taxpayers are basically funding all of these jobs, and Bezos is running out the back door with it. I mean, it's insane what they do. They fleece the taxpayers. So, and by the way, bipartisan in terms of people, fighting back against this and saying this is ridiculous. Literally, you had Tucker Carlson back up Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez when she spoke out on this and said this is absolutely absurd. And you even had Ben Shapiro, who said a similar thing. And I mean, the only one who somehow missed the picture here is Dave Rubin, because he's a fucking idiot. And he was like going after Ocasio-Cortez. Ocasio-Cortez is taking a position that's not only reasonable among social democrats or democratic socialists, it's also, again, like I said, the reason why Tucker and Ben Shapiro backed it up is because they're trying to be somewhat consistent with their ideology and believing in the free market, and they don't think corporate welfare should be handed out like this. So, and that's not to say Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro are right on other issues. You guys know I couldn't disagree with them more on almost all issues. But this is one point where they were like, yeah, Ocasio-Cortez is kind of right about this, but somehow, idiot Dave Rubin missed it. But anyway.
All right, so AOC brought this to a lot of attention. She obviously is from, I believe, is the 14th district in New York. And she said this. She went on a thread on Twitter. She said, "We've been getting calls and outreach from Queens residents all day about this. The community's response, outrage, that's in response to the headquarters of Amazon going to New York. It says, Amazon's a billion-dollar company. The idea that it will receive hundreds of millions of dollars in tax breaks at a time when our subway is crumbling and our communities need more investment, not less, is extremely concerning to residents here. When we talk about bringing jobs to the community, we need to dig deep. Has the company promised to hire in the existing community? What's the quality of jobs, plus how many are promised? Are these jobs low wage or high wage? Are there benefits? Can people collectively bargain? Displacement is not community development. Investing in luxury condos is not the same thing as investing in people and families. Shuffling working class people out of a community does not improve their quality of life. We need to focus on good healthcare, living wages, affordable rent. Corporations that offer none of these things should be met with skepticism. It's possible to establish economic partnerships with real opportunities for working families instead of a race to the bottom competition. Lastly, this isn't just about one company or one headquarters. It's about cost of living, corporations paying their fair share, etc. It's not about picking a fight either. I was elected to advocate for our community's interests, and they've requested clearly to voice their concerns. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of course, is awesome, by the way. She's been doing great work, and I'll talk about that in another video. But she is obviously accurately representing her constituency and what is the logical conclusion to come to. Amazon is massively profitable. I think it's been profitable for like the last 11 quarters or something like that. Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the entire world. He does not, as I explained in the previous segment I did about the Tucker thing, there is, no reason for Jeff Bezos to need a tax break. He doesn't need corporate welfare. Corporate welfare, again, is the worst form of welfare that there is. It is just, it's totally irrational. It doesn't help anything, and there's no reason to do it. You don't give welfare to people who don't need it. That totally defeats the entire purpose. They're already experiencing welfare, so therefore it is entirely, totally, just irrational. And that's basic common sense. So as he spoke about there, Tucker Carlson did come out against it, but there was one thing that I wish he had mentioned when he said that, because that might be a little bit misleading. So when I talked about Tucker's clip, I showed Tucker's clip, and then I explained how what he threw in there at the end, and that's why in the title I said, but there's a catch, is he threw in at the end there that there's a party that represents big business. And so what he was framing it as is not a sobering analysis, that the majority of Democrats and all of the Republicans are extremely corrupt. They're not looking out for the working class. They're instead beholden to their donors. That's not what he was doing. He's not like, AOC is fighting against the status quo of our federal Congress, which is beholden to our donors, and we're effectively an oligarchy, rather than the people, which are the people that elected them. He threw in there at the end that the Democratic Party was the party of big business. This guy is a master propagandist. Tucker Carlson has achieved the master propagandist label. Jimmy Dore actually messed up in his original coverage of Tucker Carlson when he came. Remember when he first came out against Amazon saying, this is an insanely profitable corporation. They don't need tax breaks. They don't need corporate welfare. And what he was trying to say was, and this is obviously very common sense stuff, is, who foots the bill when people who are working full time are on welfare? The idea that even exists, by the way, blows my mind. The idea that there are human beings in this country who work 40 hours a week but can't manage to make basic needs to the extent that they qualify for welfare. That almost erodes the entire purpose of a job. If you're going to work and you qualify for public welfare, is that job even really, can we even really consider that a legitimate job? I mean, that's ridiculous. The idea that that's even a concept in the United States of America boggles my mind when Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the goddamn world. And so, but Tucker Carlson's response wasn't, the response we need is to raise the minimum wage. No, Tucker Carlson called them monopolies, but he said we need not to raise the minimum wage and that we need to deregulate. His response wasn't we need to regulate and up the minimum wage. No. That's not what Tucker was advocating for. So he totally puts out the position that, this is obviously dumb. Amazon should not be not having the taxpayers footing the bill for their impoverished workers who qualify for welfare. It's insanity. And then at the end, what he throws in there, what he's doing is he takes it and he spins it for his own narrative. This guy's a master propagandist. And so what he did in that original Amazon segment was he spun it to support the Republican Party and to support deregulation and not raising the minimum wage. The rational response is we need to further regulate corporations and we need to close the loopholes where Amazon pays $0 in federal taxes, pure insanity, by the way, and to the point where the U.S. taxpayer is footing the bill for the insanely rich corporation that doesn't have to foot it because the American people foot it through their tax dollars. And he responds to that saying we need to deregulate. So this guy's a master propagandist. So I wish Kyle had mentioned in there that, but Tucker came out against it, but he's attempting to weaponize it against the Democratic Party. What he's trying to show the situation as, which we know the Republican Party is the most corrupt party ever, right? The Democrats are massively corrupt, the majority of them. But the Republican Party is so overt and open about it, it's unbelievable. They are the party of big business, as well as a lot of the Democrats are. So Tucker Carlson is trying to spin this narrative as if it's something that is supportive of as if the response is what we want. And so people keep getting tricked by that. So I wish Kyle had mentioned that, because I thought that would have been a good detail. But also, Ben Shapiro, he mentioned that too. This is a big problem too. Here's one of his tweets where he sent this out. Look, he's trying to spin it too. These people are propagandists, man. It's crazy. So here's this tweet that Ben Shapiro sent out. It's a link to a Daily Wire article. I'm not sure if he wrote it or someone else. It says, corruption. Democrats bribe Amazon to come to town. And so his tweet says, Democrats, we hate corporations, but not Amazon, which we will pay billions in taxpayer dollars to locate here. So even Ben Shapiro, when he says he's against it, right? He's not saying he's against it. What he's trying to do is, and you have to throw this in there, as really any political commentator on the left, because you're falling for their propaganda is what you're doing. The reason that he's against this is he's trying to weaponize it against the Democratic Party, which is the most mind-boggling idea, by the way. The idea that you could possibly take something like these really big corporations getting corporate welfare, which is something that the Democrats, at least Democratic people, and even a lot of Democratic, a lot of Democratic congressional members and governmental officials have been railing against, and you just sort of flip it when the Republican Party is the most corrupt party in all of history, and they're overt and open about it. At least the Democrats in some cases attempt to make it subtle or make it, not overt. The Republican Party says, screw that, we're just going to be full on overt, forget it. They don't even care. They're just like, you know what, fuck it, why not? Let's just be totally overt about it. So Kyle is right, but there you have to make the distinction. I don't trust their propaganda. I don't even know if I believe their point, because they're trying to weaponize this thing to go after the Democrats rather than to actually critique the Republicans. And of course, Dave Rubin, the dummy who doesn't know anything. I mean, again, like, I made a recent video talking about Dave Rubin, showing like a 3.5 minute clip or 4 minute clip of his, and every single point he made consecutively was just factually incorrect. This guy's like, oh, the Democrats need to go more centrist. You moron. Hillary Clinton was the centrist. That's who you're talking about. You could not get more centrist than Hillary Clinton. And that's the reason why she lost. So in what planet is the rational response to go more centrist? And Dave Rubin was like, oh, well, we can all pretend to be armchair quarterbacks and say we knew it was going to happen, because polling data, you never know. Polling data was dead on about the 2016 election, and polling data was dead on about this previous election. There was a blue wave in the House. There's still, to this day, there are literally, every day, there's like a new seat that's announced where it's like, Democrats have officially taken the lead in blank area. And the Senate stayed Republican, because the polling data was very obvious, and basic mathematics of first grade level will tell you that. 26 vacancies for Democrats, 9 for Republicans. Not very hard to know. So he's just really dumb. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And so Dave Rubin went on some Twitter thread or whatever the hell he did, where he went after Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and saying, lower tax. He's like, dude, why, on what planet can you advocate for a corporation that is massively, massively profitable, and the richest person in the world is their CEO, and you are advocating for, it's okay to give them corporate welfare and tax breaks? It's not okay to do that in any way, shape, or form. And also, we give Jeff Bezos, the devil, credit for upping it to $15. But like, how much is it gonna come to a wash now that we just gave him a shit ton of corporate welfare? Like, is that just gonna, because technically not even technically, literally the taxpayers were footing the bill for his impoverished workers. Are they still doing that now? Because you just gave them a huge corporate welfare check. So the question becomes now, okay, was the raise to 15 just sort of moot? It's really frustrating here, but don't trust these propagandist Republicans who are just these frauds, who are people who are trying to take these and just make it into shift it into their propaganda, like Ben Shapiro and Tucker. And then there are morons like Dave Rubin who don't even try and do that. They're just so dumb they don't even understand it up front.